Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. In this lecture we are going to study Riccia plant and their life cycle. Riccia belongs to Bryophyta class Hypitaceae. The systematic position of the genus Riccia is concerned. The genus Riccia is placed in the division Bryophyta. Bryophyta are the group of plants which are non-vascular. Class Hepaticopsida. Hepaticopsida are those plants groups which have their thalloid body. Thalloid body means the body which cannot be differentiated into root, stem and leaves, while they are placed under order Margantialis, family Ricciaceae, and the genus is Riccia. The genus Riccia contain about 200 species. The genus Riccia is common liverworts which grows usually during the rainy season on damp walls, moist places, in dense patches, or rarely in pools of water as free floating scum. Usually predominantly they are wet terrestrial habitats. You can say they are grown in damp soils, except two species, that is Riccia fluitans and Riccia natans, which are free floating or submerged aquatics. Though the genus is cosmopolitan, yet it exhibits maximum distribution in southern hemisphere. As far as the plant body or the structure of plant body is concerned, the gametophyte is the dominant phase of Riccia plant. Therefore, the main plant body, that is the thallus of Riccia, represents a well-developed gametophytic phase. So, Riccia is a dichotomously prostrate, flat and somewhat fleshy and a green dichotomously thallus. In terrestrial habits, on land, the plants usually occurs in a roseate form. Roseate form means, in botany, a roseate is a circular arrangement of leaves or of a structure resembling leaves. In bryophytes and algae, a rosette result from the repeated branching of the thallus as the plant grows, resulting in a circular outline. So they are due to the presence of number of dichotomies that grow together from one place are rosette shapes. The rosettes are up to 15 cm in diameter. Riccia thallus, this is a rosette shaped structure of Riccia plant. You can see here the dichotomously it is the rosette shaped thalloid structure. The body is cannot be differentiated easily into any organ, leaf like leaf, roots or stem like a structure. You can see here the rosette shape dorsal surface is dichotomously branched. In ventral surface you can see the apical notch and mid dorsal groove, and these are the scales, and these are the rhizoid which helps in the fixation of plants with the substratum. So rosette form in terrestrial species due to the presence of several dichotomies close to each other. So the gametophyte of Riccia, shortly, vegetative body of each plant is a flat dorsiventral thallus, wholly prostrate and typically rosette like, right? And its branches is dichotomously branched and each branch of the thallus is wedged, shaped and thickened on the middle line, right? And on the ventral side of the thallus there are numerous scale-like structure, one cellus thickness and many rhizoids which perform the function of the root, but the rhizoid is false root. The dorsal surface is light green or dark green body, each branch having a thick midrib, and it is traversed by conspicuous median longitudinal grooves which ends in a depression at the apical region, forming an apical notch. Growing point is situated in the apical notch, and the main function of the mid-dorsal groove is to retain water required for fertilization. Some hairy epidermal outgrowths are also seen in Riccia melanospora, though rarely. So here you can see each branch of a thallus has a midrib represented by dorsal median grooves and the ventral median ridge. Sometimes it is quite prominent, as in various species, where it forms a broad dip channel terminating onto the tropical notch. The ventral surface of gametophytic plant body. The ventral surface of thallus bears many scales and rhizoids. The rhizoids are unicellular and elongated, tubular and hair-like structure which attach the thallus to the substratum and absorb water and nutrient solution. Riccia has two types of rhizoids: the simple rhizoids with smooth inner walls and the tuberculate rhizoids with prominent peg-like processes in the inner layer of the wall. While the scales are arranged in a transverse row, the scales contain anthocyanin pigment which in a very moist habitat may develop a faint green color due to the chlorophyll. In moist places they are small and soon perish, but in dry habitats they are large and persistent. So the color of the scale is due to the dissolution of the pigment in the cell sap, and scales are arranged all along the margin in a single row. In the apical region they projected forward, and in some species which need a large supply of moisture, the scales are ephemeral. Ephemeral means they are short-lived. So in xerophytic condition scales are short-lived and the scales are leafy and persistent in xerophytic condition. In xerophilous condition, in Riccia crystallina, the scales are inconspicuous and absent, and rhizoids are as I discussed, unicellular and unbranched. Now the plant body or thallus internal structure, or the internal structure. Then we take transverse section or TS of the internal structure of the thallus. We find that the two distinct region of Riccia thallus, the upper or the dorsal portion, also called assimilatory or the photosynthetic region, which consists of vertical tiers of the cells containing chloroplast. As you can see in this diagram of thallus, the upper distinct portion is called the assimilatory region, that is also called the photosynthetic region because of the presence of large number of chloroplasts in it. So in this region photosynthesis occurs, while the lower region is called the ventral part is a tissue of colorless parenchymatous cells which may contain stars. That's how they are called storage region. The assimilatory region or the photosynthetic region of the thallus consists of unbranched green photosynthetic pigments. These filaments are arranged in vertical rows, each consisting of a single row of cells. Upper epidermis is this, and these are discontinuous, having larger, usually non-green cells. Vertical rows of assimilatory filaments encloses vertical spaces which may be called air chambers or the air canals, or sometimes it is also called air channels. The air chambers may be narrow or wide due to the compactly or loosely organized assimilatory filaments. So the storage region merges gradually into a assimilatory region and into a compact colorless, and this is compact colorless undifferentiated parenchymatous storage region. The Riccia plant reproduces by means of vegetative and sexual production, which occurs either after a certain stage of maturity or due to the sudden change in the environment. So they can be reproduced both by sexual and asexual method. Asexually, they are reproduced by vegetative mode of reproduction. Vegetatively, Riccia plant reproduces by the following mode during the favorable season. The first is fragmentation, by the progressive growth of the apical region followed by death and decay of the older portion. As a result of decay, the two lobes of dichotomously branched thallus lobes are ultimately separated, and each of them develops into an independent plant. So the progressive death and decay or reaching of two dichotomy separated into lobes, and each lobe survived as apical growth and develops into a new plant. This is a type of fragmentation. Another is by the formation of adventitious branches. Special adventitious branches similar to parent thallus arise from the mid-ventral surface of the thallus. These adventitious branches get detached and develops into new plants. This type of reproduction, although uncommon, is found in Riccia fleetes. So, by the formation of adventitious branch, they develop from the ventral surface of the thallus, a new plant arises. The third is by the growth of the surviving apical cells of the thallus of the previous season, or this is called the persistent apices. For example, in Riccia discolor and many other species, the apexes of the thallus grow down into the soil and become thickened at the end of the growing season. So the plant parts more than the underground persistent apices die with the commencement of favorable season. These apices resume their growth and they come up and develop into new plants. The last is by the formation of tubers, which is developed from the thallus. A few species such as Riccia discolor, Riccia vesicata, and Riccia perineus reproduces by perinating tubers formed at the apices of the lobes of the thalli. So from the lobes apex, these tubers are developed, and tubers are actually the outer extra growth. The tubers which remains dormant during unfavorable condition resume their growth under favorable atmosphere. So majority of the Riccia are monoecious plants, and hence the vegetatively they can also develop. Sexual reproduction in Riccia. The sex organs are highly differentiated and well developed. The male sex organ develops as an antheridium, and the female as an archegonium. Both the types of sex organs may develop on the same thallus. An antheridium and archegonium develops on the same plant. The plant is said to be monoecious or homothallic. So most of the Riccia plants are monoecious. That is, antheridia and archegonia both are born on the same plant. But few species are dioecious as well. That is, with antheridia and archegonia born on two different plants of this same species. So mostly the Riccia are monoecious, means both the reproductive organ antheridia and archegonia born or develop on same plant. So sex organs are born in acropetal succession in more or less linear row within the longitudinal follow on the dorsal side of the vegetative body. The development of antheridium. The antheridium usually arises from the dorsal superficial cells situated very close, one or two cells behind the apical cells. So antheridium occurs in discoid areas above the general level of the thallus. Each antheridium is completely encloses in an antheridial chamber formed by the growth of adjacent tissues and connected to the exterior by a narrow slit-like opening. So each antheridium is a pear-shaped structure and stalk at the broader end. A mature antheridium of Riccia consists of short few-celled stalk is branched to the base of antheridial body. The antheridial body is an oval structure with flat base and conical types. The antheridial body has two distinct regions of thin word cells, that is an outer sterile layers of thin word cells called jacket layer, and a central mass of large number of cubical or androgonial cells. And the antheridium is enclosed within antheridial chamber, and the antheridial chamber communicates outside with the dorsal surface by a pore. The development of archegonium as female reproductive organ. Like in antheridium, archegonium also arises from a dorsal superficial cell situated very close to the apical cells. So archegonium lies in the deep pits or furrows and are partially enclosed by the overgrowth of the surrounding tissues. Each archegonium is a flag-shaped structure or body with a very short stalk and consists of two parts. Number one, an elongated basal portion which is called venter. This is an elongated basal portion, and an elongated comparatively large tubular portion called neck. The venter consists of ventral canal cells and a larger osphere or ovum or egg, and the neck consists of a number of neck canal cells. When the archegonium matures, there is a complete dissolution of the canal, so the passage is the sporophyte is the post-fertilization changes. The sporophyte in Riccia possesses very simple and structure, only a globular capsule, then has the simplest organization among the bryophytes because food and seta are absent in Riccia. You can see in this picture with thallus, our rounded body capsule is present, and the outer layer is called calyptra. And here in this picture you can see the jacket layer. The jacket layer is the sterile layer which is present in all the reproductive organ in kingdom Plantae. The sporophyte produces a spore in spore mother cells by the process of meiosis. These spores can germinate during the favorable condition and can produce a new sporophytic plant. The germination first sign is the spore increases in its size and then it becomes more or less transparent. Then it is followed by the appearance of a prominent pore opposite to triradiate mark. The endospore comes out through this pore in the form of a colorless pillar. Later, a large number of chloroplasts make their appearance and the germ tube elongates and by division from an each-celled germ plate. Subsequently, two-sided apical cell is established and which cuts off segments adding to the tissues of the gametophyte. The first rhizoids develops when the germ plate is two-celled. This is the Riccia life cycle graphic and the diagrammic both life cycles. Here you can see from Riccia plant vegetative reproduction occur. The gametophyte breaks off and then produces new gametophytic plant. The sex organs are of two types, antheridium and the archegonium. You can see here antheridium and it is the archegonium. In archegonium, eggs are produced. In antheridium, anthrozoids are present, which is sperm. Sperms are biflagellated. They they are transported to the archegonium from oospore, and thus fertilization occurs and then zygote is developed. Here you can see the zygote is the diploid structure, and thus several changes occur and a new sporophyte, which is diploid structure, is formed. The spore mother cells, which is present in sporophytic structure, is developed, and in this sporophytic structure, spore mother cells, spores are produced, and here spores are the haploid structure which can germinate into which is the tri-celled structure, as I have discussed, and each will separates and the germination occurs, and from this endospore young thallus is germinated, and thus Riccia gametophyte is developed. Thus the cycle is continuous. So students, thank you so much. I hope the life cycle of Riccia plant is clear to you. Allah Hafiz.